Welcome to The Hidden Story, a space for the conversations we don't usually have out loud. I'm your host, Dr. Vassilia, and here we're going to explore real stories of resilience and the moments that shape us. Every life has a hidden story. Let's tell the stories that change everything. Hi, and welcome to The Hidden Story. I'm the host, Dr. Vassilia. Thank you for joining me today. Before we get started, don't forget to follow and subscribe. Go over to my Instagram, Dr. Vassilia, where you will find a link to my Substack. And you will also find some of my mental health journals and other resources. Today, our guest is going to be Anicka Newell. She is an Olympic pole vaulter. And stick around for the end where we will talk a little bit more about her story. And then I will answer some audience submitted questions, just general mental health questions. So let's just dive into it. Hi, Anicka. It's so great to have you. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me today.
All right. Well, maybe you can just kind of introduce yourself to our audience and tell us about your Olympic journey, where you are now.
Yeah. So my name is Anicka Newell. Like you said, I'm a 3-time Olympian. I compete for Canada. My family's Canadian, so I grew up in the States. I have dual citizenship. And I really don't like the cold, so I train as far south. I train in Houston, Texas, which I love. And this is my 10th year as a pro pole vaulter, and this is also my last year as a pro pole vaulter. So
Wow.
I am entering my retirement tour right now, and I'm both really excited and a little bit sad to have this journey ending.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And yeah, I was wondering that, how does it feel just knowing that this is your last year, and what brought you to that decision?
I think if you know professional sports, you know how much sacrifice goes into it. You know that it is a round the clock job, and it is a whole year. Like I get 4 weeks off of an off season to kind of relax and unwind, but that's 4 weeks out of the entire year.
Wow.
Other than that, I'm training, I'm competing, I'm having to say no to going to birthdays, go to girls trips, to go to weddings, because either I have competitions or I need to stick to my routine. So I just, I've sacrificed a lot, and I don't regret any of it at all. Like, this has been the most insane journey of my life, but I think I'm ready to kind of enter that next era of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I didn't realize it's that much. You basically get 1 month off, and the rest of the time you are
1 month off.
training.
Yeah, it's an 11-month commitment for sure.
Wow. I actually had no idea. I mean, I knew obviously Olympic athletes train a lot, but I didn't realize that there's so little balance in life when you're doing that throughout the year.
Yeah. And, coaches, they try and find balance, but ultimately there is none.
How?
Because
Yeah.
when you're in the Olympics, you have to be all in. You just have to be all in.
Mm-hmm. What are some of your plans for after this year?
I honestly, I haven't given it too much thought. I have some ideas, but I'm kind of more of we're going to cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah.
I will for sure end up doing some coaching, because I do that already and I love it. I love working with kids. So that'll be in the plan somewhere. But besides that, this door is going to close, and every other door will be open. So we'll see.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So which Olympics did you compete in?
So my first one was Rio 2016, and then I competed at Tokyo 2021 due to COVID, and then this last one, Paris 2024.
Wow, that's amazing. What is it like going there? And did you notice a difference between your first, second, or third Olympics?
Yeah, the first Olympics I went to was straight out of college, and it was my first international competition ever, and it was the biggest stage in the world, is the Olympics. So to say I was nervous would be an understatement. I'm not gonna lie, I choked at that one. The nerve got to me. And then Tokyo 2021, I was much better prepared. I had learned, I was more seasoned. I was ready to go. So I competed really well there. And then the Paris Olympics, I feel really good about. Unfortunately, I was struggling with an Achilles injury
Mm.
the majority of that year, so it was a little bit tough, but ultimately, I'm really proud of the way that I did that one.
Yeah, that makes sense also. And also like the choking, like how do you get into the mindset? Like what did you do differently between Rio and Tokyo that helped you get into that mindset?
So obviously, with each experience, you take it as a learning experience. So going into the next Olympics, it's like, okay, number one, I've been here before. I know what to expect. I know how big the stadium is going to be, and I know how I need to perform and what kind of athletes are going to be there. I'm able to put myself in that mindset. And my whole thing is, I always wear a watch, and you're not actually allowed to wear an Apple Watch because you can't have electronics. So I wear a regular one, and I give myself 5 minutes when I enter the arena, 5 minutes to kind of like, try a little bit, take it
Mhm.
all in, and then it's game time. Like the tunnel vision, boom, 5 minutes is up, and we're tunnel vision, and I'm in my essentially my practice mindset that we've been training for the last 4 years. So,
Yeah.
and then it's just all the memory.
Yeah, it's muscle memory, right? You just have to let yourself get to the muscle memory by not letting like your mind get in the way essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
The hay is in the barn. The hay is in the barn. So
It makes a lot of sense. And like the 5 minutes, so is like because you're not suppressing those feelings. Like it's natural to take it all in and be in awe or be overwhelmed. And you're not saying I can't feel that way, but you are boxing it into a certain amount of time and then allowing it, feeling it. And it's kind of like letting your nervous system like acclimate a little bit and say it's okay. And then that's it, and cutting it off at that certain time and like getting into so they coach you in how to get into a certain mindset.
yes, absolutely. And I'm a big believer in, nerves are essentially energy. So I'll let myself feel the nerves, the butterfly, and let them kind of go wild for a little bit. And then when it comes time, my butterflies are ready to fly in formation. We're ready to go.
That's a good analogy. I like that. Fly information. But you're actually absolutely right. That is the nervous system. People try to suppress these things. They actually come out later sometimes. They come out as anxiety or panic attacks when people are just like least expecting it because they're not allowing their nervous system to do its natural thing. That is just regular energy. And instead of being afraid of it, you're just like allowing yourself to feel it, which is exactly like what people should be doing, even sometimes when it's uncomfortable.
Even when it's uncomfortable. Yeah. And I do the same thing with like fear, for example, because I'm in a very dangerous sport. And, I love feeling fear because I know that I just get to challenge myself to overcome it. But
Mm.
I let myself, feel the fear and let it fill me up. And I
Wow.
just know that like I can feel it
And you feel the fear like in a physical way as well?
in a very physical way. Sometimes I'm at the very back of the runway and my hand is shaking because whether it's in pole vaulting, we jump on different poles
Hmm.
throughout the competition. And sometimes my coach will put me on a much bigger pole than I'm used to jumping on. Because I belong on that one, so I can hopefully jump higher and I'll be at the back of the runway shaking because, if I do something wrong or if I hesitate, I could potentially be dumped back out on the runway instead of making it into the mat.
Yeah.
So there's that danger element, which is ultimately pretty exciting. But yeah, I let myself, really embrace the fear and feel it.
Wow. Were you always like that? Or is that something that you had to learn?
It's definitely something that I had to learn. Although when I was younger, I was a gymnast, so it was a very similar mindset. But I think I've very much honed in on on how I handle it now.
Hmm. Yeah, it's actually amazing to hear because, when we watch it on TV, it's like we feel like all of these athletes, doesn't really enter our mind. I think that they're afraid or uncertain.
Um,
They just look so powerful. They're doing things that we could never imagine our bodies doing. And so to hear you say that you do experience fear and nervousness, but that you use it as a tool.
Yeah, definitely. I know when you're on the outside looking in, I feel like our job is to make it look and to be very composed when we're doing it. But ultimately, yeah, there's a lot of things going through our head at the back of the runway for sure that a
Yeah.
lot of people don't really know or understand.
Yeah, I just wouldn't think about that, you know? And I think most of us just we're regular people, we're just like in awe. And can't even imagine that you would feel that way. But I think it's helpful for people to know that, that even elite athletes can experience those things.
Yeah, absolutely. We're essentially just like everybody else. So we
Yeah.
we have the feelings and the nerves and the fear and the excitement, like
Hmm.
all the same emotions that everybody else has.
Yeah. And so what is it that made you choose pole vaulting?
I actually got forced into it. In high school. I was on the track team. And I was sprinting and doing long jump and hurdles, and the coach was like, "Hey, we need more women in the field events, specifically pole vault. Like we could get some points at pole vault." And he knew I was a former gymnast. So
Mm.
he's like, "Hey, he's like, try pole vault." So I'm looking at it like, I'm not trying that. Like I don't want to try it, but I guess it was the right decision.
That's
So
interesting. Yeah. So this is not something that you'd seen people do or watched in previous Olympics and said, oh, one day that's going to be me. It was just kind of like, hey, I am a coach and know that can see that you have that in you. Get over there.
essentially, yep. Yep. I mean, it looks so foreign. Like, who the heck wants to jump over a stick with another stick? Like, it's just the whole thing doesn't make sense, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I went and tried it out and ended up winning state my very first year and then getting recruited my second year.
That's
So,
amazing. It seems like, from whenever I've watched pole vaulting, um, do you have to like relax your body as you're going over that, like, as you're going over that bar? Like, what do you do? What do you do with your body as you're just propelling it like that?
I will say there's nothing relaxed about it. I have probably like every muscle in my body is like tensed up as much as possible.
Hmm.
Essentially, you're trying to excel up and over the bar. So it takes a lot of core, it takes a lot of shoulders, and it takes a lot of air and body awareness. You're also trying to figure out, where the bar is. Like the bar is lava. You don't touch the bar. So you
Yeah.
have to figure out where it is and be able to maneuver your body around it. So it takes
Yeah.
a lot of like contortion and, like I said, core and muscle balance and strength while you're doing it. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work and like what we call like proprioception, like knowing where
Yes.
your body is in space. And like you said, where is that bar? And
Mhm.
like, it's just actually incredible. I think people might not even realize like how incredible that is. And also that this is like a basic conversation about like nervous system. Like, how do you regulate it? How do you stay with your body? How do you let that muscle memory take over? And how do you know where you are like floating in space? And you only have like a few seconds to do all of this.
Yeah. And really like I and as a coach myself, I only ever give an athlete like one, maybe two things to think about in that.
Hmm.
And I myself about like one thing in the jump that's gonna make the most effect or most difference in the jump, and I'll let my body just do the rest. Like it's all gonna come together if I do just one thing.
Yeah. I feel like that is a metaphor for so many other things in life, like,
Probably.
right? Where people are overthinking certain things or, um, yeah, I think taking on too much at once and like maybe not trusting. I feel like to me, that's like what beginner's luck is like in certain things is like because they're not thinking about it that much and they don't care if
I
they
know.
were right. And then once you want it,
And
once you start focusing on it, that's what starts messing you up.
I would completely agree. I also think a lot of people focus on the uncontrollables
Mm,
too much. And I'm somebody that, like, I'm cool as a cucumber. I cannot control the weather. I cannot control the direction that the wind is blowing. I can't control, if there's going to be sun right in my eyes or, like I hear the sound of the gunshot on the track with the runners running by. Like, I
hmm.
can't control those things. I let that go.
Wow. I mean, is that kind of your personality, or is that something you've had to work on?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. I mean, if you ask my friends, they could tell you like I could stay relaxed in the middle of a tornado. but, um, but I will say I've worked on it a lot in
Hmm.
regards to competition. And I've read a lot of literature about it as well to just help prepare myself mentally and get in the right headspace to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think that's just such a good lesson also for those of us who have anxiety. It's like, I mean, I would be worried about the weather for a Saturday. Like I'd be, you know what I mean? Like that would get me all spun up, no less doing something like this, I'd be thinking about all the things that I couldn't control and, trying to put that stuff out of my head. And you've, partly just how you are, but then partly like kind of learning to just let those things like pass you by. It sounds like
Yep,
it's pretty awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What would you say are some of the obstacles that you faced along the way?
Some of the biggest obstacles have been injuries.
Mm,
That's I say the same prayer at the beginning of every single year. My prayer is always, "Can I get through the season without a major injury?" I have yet for that to come true.
really?
Uh, it's just part of the sport. It's gonna happen. And honestly, I think that going into a season, you don't want to be prepared for an injury or like expect it to happen, but you want to know that like mentally, if and when it does happen, like you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Like every athlete struggles with injuries, minor and major, and pain is really just part of the game. So
Hmm.
just deal with it the same way you deal with practice. You show up every day, do your rehab, and you do the things that again are in your control, and you get to it.
Hmm. Are there some injuries that have like set you back more than others?
Yeah, I have like chronic Achilles pain, which this is the first year that we finally kind of identified where it's coming from.
Hmm.
So thankfully, my Achilles feel great right now,
Oh,
but I had 2 years. I had 2024 before the Olympics. I had a really bad Achilles injury, and that set me back. That was really hard, mainly because even when I was coming back and I was getting stronger, I didn't fully trust myself and my body. And I feel like that's kind of the hardest thing for an athlete is like when I'm coming down the runway, I want to feel 100%. I want to feel confident in my body when
hmm,
I'm coming down. If you're kind of bracing or expecting pain every step,
yeah.
that's not confidence. You're not gonna feel very good.
That makes a lot of sense. Like bracing or flinching, like there are a lot of sports where they say, yeah, you can't flinch. Like you have to, if you're bracing yourself, that it's going to throw you off or you're not going to be able to accomplish or go all in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It always has to be pretty much like a green light go. You can't be in the yellow light or red light zone. It has to be full green light. Yeah, I feel like injuries have been probably the biggest obstacle that I've had to overcome, as well as just finances. Like when those
Mm,
injuries happen, like how much does treatment cost? How much does surgery cost? How much like all of the different like chiro, physio, PT, like all the supplements we take. I mean, it's a lot. And
yeah.
track and field is not like NFL or NBA. Like we're we're not making that kind of money. So
Yeah. I think people have an idea that elite athletes, like you have a team, you just have all of this around you. It's like provided for you, you're sponsored, like that, financially, that it's not an issue. But, I think we're seeing more and more that that's not the case for so many people, even if that they're at the top of their game.
yeah, no, we in the track world, we do not have that. You are very lucky if you have a full team to work with. And more often than not, it's like we have different areas for different things. So like our track might be 30 minutes from our house this way. Our physio might be 45 minutes this way. And then the weight room's another 15 minutes this way. It's like we're constantly just having to like go all these different places and spend all this different money. Like I pay for a gym membership.
Hmm.
I'm not Olympic gym with other elite athletes. Like I'm at a regular gym, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I do get like embarrassed because I'm doing these crazy lifts and jumping around, and people are probably like, "Oh, this girl just wants attention." But I'm like, no, it's on my it's on my machine that my coach said.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about, just like the amount of sacrifice that it takes to get to the sport and then to stay in it, and to keep coming back. Like it's just an incredible amount of sacrifice, not just like with the time commitment, but with the financial commitment and like all of these other things you have to do, like if we get injured.
Yeah, no, it commitment is the key word for sure, and ultimately, like I feel like track and field athletes, we really understand each other. Like we are doing it for the pure love of the sport. Like
Yeah.
it's just we are passionate about what we do, and we want to see like really what we're capable of. That's what I kind of enjoy is like our sport specifically. It comes down to meters and seconds.
Hmm.
So we're pushing ourselves. It's more of like us against us, and like how fast can I run? How high can I jump? How far can I throw? Versus like being on a team sport, you're really just like there to win the game.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, what you just said is that you're competing against yourself. It's a great point. Like, have you felt like competitive against others? Like, how do you deal with that? Have you ever felt like looked at someone else and said, "Yeah, I wish I could achieve what they did"? Like, how do you deal with that kind of competition?
So I first of all, I love competition. Like I thrive. I enjoy competing against other athletes. Um, but I will always, if I can exit a competition feeling like I did my best, I'm always going to feel good about it, no matter the outcome.
Hmm.
If I left it all on the track, then I'm always going to feel good about it. Now, of course, there's other athletes that I look at and I'm like, man, that girl is jumping high. But to me, it's really exciting and very stimulating. And like I can look at them and hopefully learn from some of the things that they're.
Hmm.
I might look at some of their technical cues, and a lot of us are really good friends too. So
Hmm.
if I asked, like champion is actually here at this competition, and if I asked her for some tips or some help with something, she would give me those tips and she would help me.
Yeah. So it's really
So
like
I
collaborative between you guys.
yes, yes, definitely.
Yeah, so it sounds like, yeah, you take it as motivation, inspiration for how much more you could do when you see other people and kind of just like you measure yourself against yourself.
Yes. Yes. I want to see what Anicka Newell can do. I want to see like the sky's the limit, and I want to see how close to it I can get.
And that's a lesson that so many people are trying to learn, because you know how so many of us compare ourselves to other people, what they're accomplishing, what we see on the surface. And
Yeah.
yeah, the best thing to do is say, are you doing better than you did yesterday? Or did you do the best that you could today? It sounds like that's kind of
Was
your,
I
yeah,
best for myself? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I mean, what would you tell people? Like, for example, I talk to in my field, like as a therapist, I'll talk to kids who play sports, and they always want to go pro, and that means that there's a lot of them out there who want to go pro. And we know how competitive it is. And you want to encourage people, but also be realistic. And then whenever I'll talk to parents, parents who, see some potential in their kids, whether it's soccer or football or something else, they want to take it as far as they can take it. They want to get that college scholarship and they want to go pro. Um, what do you think about that? Like, and what would you, tell kids that at whatever level they're at, that they want to take it to as far as they can?
So this is a great question, being that I'm a coach and I see a lot of this as well. And
Hmm.
I get a lot of athletes and parents that ask me the same question. And my answer is always the same. You got to do more. Whatever you think you're doing is not enough. You have to do more, and you have to think outside the box, and you need to be asking what that more might be. You need to be looking for outside sources. Like you just More is the key word, because everybody thinks, like, especially if they have a little bit of natural talent, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I can fly, I can do this, I can do that, or like I can slack off here and there. No, you can't. And if you are, guess what? There's somebody else that is not slacking off
Yeah.
and is happy to take your place.
That is so true. It makes a lot of sense. Like, and I have a comment on that, but how do they respond to you when you say that? Like, you have to do more if that's really what you want to do.
Usually they go on the defense. Well, I'm already no. Let me stop you right there. I'm already like, nope, I don't want to hear it. If the real athletes, the ones that I know are actually gonna maybe succeed in that area and go further, will not already tell me what they're already doing. They'll say, okay, so like what can they'll start asking, what can I start doing then?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do as an athlete? Like, what would be my next steps?
Yeah.
It's not already doing this.
They're not defensive. They're not, yeah, defending their position. They're already somehow good enough. They're hungry to keep getting better, and they just taking that feedback, even if it hurts sometimes to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that makes so much sense to me because it's something that I've experienced in different realms because I think, whether it's sports or some part of your career or something you're trying to do, it's like, especially if you start with some natural talent and you don't realize what it takes to get to a really, really high level. And I am not surprised that they're defensive sometimes because sometimes it feels like you have done so much. And then someone's
Mhm.
coming in and saying it's actually still not at that level, because I've had people tell me that, like, whether it was in my education or like my business coach or something, where I'm like, I'm doing all the things. And they're like, no, actually, the people who are really like making it, they're doing that much more. Like, you thought you were stretching yourself and like you don't even know how much more there is to go. And it's a hard thing to hear.
It is because it feels like somebody's like almost coming for you and your character
Hmm.
when they say that. They're really not. You're just giving somebody the facts and being realistic about it.
Yeah, like, and then think about who you're out there competing against, and like, I think at first we have to acknowledge that, yeah, maybe how much somebody has done is a huge deal, and they have pushed themselves, but that maybe they need to zoom out because there are levels to it, and it took them
Mhm.
that much like blood, sweat, and tears to get to this level, but there's like still all these levels, and it's going to take more.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the devil's in the details. So
Mm-hmm.
and I again, something else that I like really preach is practice how you want to compete. Like, practice does not make perfect. If
Mm-hmm.
you're practicing poorly, if you're practicing bad habits, like, you're not going to be perfect. Practice makes permanent. So you need to be practicing the way that you want to compete.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Is to put yourself into that situation, and not just assume, right? Like, not just assume that whatever you're doing is enough or that you'll figure it out when you get there.
Yes.
Yeah. So what is it like coaching kids?
I love it because I feel like it makes me or reminds me like how much I love what I do in the sport and how fun it is.
Mhm.
Like, almost one of those events, like, it's fun.
Yeah.
You kind of feel like flying when you do it right. And to see kids, like, their little faces light up when they get something, or when they get a PR, or I teach them something like how to turn, and they're like, oh, you see their faces light up, and it's very exciting, and I feel like I'm making a real impact
Mhm.
on somebody, hopefully instilling in them like the same lessons that my parents and my coaches they instilled in me. So that's my ultimate goal, is to just be a good
Yeah.
role model.
Yeah, pass it down, and then like you said, it kind of reignites that in you. And have you ever had some kids that are just having a really hard time or feel like giving up, and how do you deal with that?
Yep. I mean, it happens. Everybody goes through that, whether it's just a little bit of a plateau where they're kind of questioning themselves, or questioning if they want to, continue on, things like that. And as a coach, I feel like you really have to to identify within that athlete what they need in that moment. Some kids, they just need a really like fired up pep talk, like, you got this, let's attack this, let's do this. Other kids, they might need a little bit more sensitivity and, okay, well, hey, let's attack it from this angle. Like, let's work in some little drills and see if you like these, and see if these help make things like a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And other kids might have some patience. It's like, hey, you might need to step away for a month and go have fun, go do something else, and then come back to it and see where
Yeah.
your mindset's at.
Yeah.
So
Recognizing that.
Psychologists, yeah.
Yeah. Like recognizing where they are, what's holding them back, and like what it is that that specific kid needs. Do you ever find
Yes.
parents that, yeah. No, go on.
Oh, no. I was just saying, yeah, like everybody has different needs. Everybody's different.
Yeah. Do you ever find parents who are like maybe having too high expectations, pushing their kids too hard?
I mean, you're always going to have those. And there's a very fine line because, as a parent, like, you want to see your kids succeed. And I get it. I'm a coach. I want to see your kids. Like, I get more excited for them than I do for myself. Sometimes I complicate them. There's definitely moments, for example, like if I see them kind of like coaching their kid on the side or showing them the video if they're getting too in depth and like almost being too hard on the kids, I would walk over and I would say, hey, I'm the coach. I'm telling the kids what I want them to do. I need you to just watch and cheer or get out. And I'm not afraid to say that to somebody.
Wow. Yeah.
Because if they're getting too deep into it, too much to their head, that poor kid is like has too many cooks in the kitchen and too much going on in their head.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna perform very well. And they're gonna probably get pretty frustrated over it.
Yeah. And maybe even give up. Yeah.
Yeah, give up. If I'm giving somebody a coaching cue, I probably see 20 things wrong in the jump. I'm giving one coaching cue and I'm giving that one for a specific reason. I don't need a parent, giving 10 others or coming down hard on their kids. That's not helping us. That's hurting.
Yeah, and it's like you said earlier about not getting too much into your head, not in like don't want people to be thinking about, you said, more than two things at once when they're doing this. And then if you have a parent who's like, it can be discouraging. Like not only are they telling them all this stuff, overwhelming them, but like fault finding and discouraging them. Like where you're saying sometimes you see like 10 things that they could do better, but you're not going to list all that out for them. You're not going to make them feel like that's all they're focusing on is what they're doing wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Cause I imagine like there are a lot of parents it means so much for them, or they live through their kid, or it gets away from them. They start having these expectations that are way too unreasonable, actually.
Yeah. And sometimes, if I need to have an actual sit down talk and like, hey, let's look at like your kid's real potential and what I see them doing this year and how we can achieve that. Like we can do that. I have no problem with that either. I think that's actually more healthy and builds a better relationship with the coach, the athlete, and the parent.
Yeah. And that it's like that this is not an overnight thing. Like let's set a goal for the next few months, or let's set a goal for the year. We're not saying that, by the end of this year, they're going to be in the Olympics. Like, let's be more realistic about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's not an overnight thing. I feel like everybody's looking for that magic wand or like, that magic pill, like boom, PR. It does not happen like that. And, for some people, like they get their click moments and they do PR really easily, but others, it is a puzzle. So we're putting pieces together.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if people wish that they could have the kind of attitude towards things that you do, which is like, seems pretty positive. It seems like pretty realistic, like not too hard on yourself or others and kind of like doing it for the enjoyment. Like, but they're not naturally like that. They have to learn that. What is some advice that you would give someone like that?
Honestly, I hate to say it, but I think that comes a little bit with maturity. And you have to be really open and receptive to understanding and learning those types of things. If you're just closed off to it, like perfectionists, for example, they just see the perfect. That's it. And there's like that's all the that's in their vision. And you have to be more open minded than that and understand that there's not one road to get to that perfect.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that just comes with maturity and self awareness.
Self-awareness, being open-minded. It's making me wonder, like, I bet some of your best jumps or were not like perfect, but they were still like your
They were
best.
not perfect. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I tell athletes too. Like, it doesn't have to be a perfect run coming down the runway. It doesn't have to be the most perfect takeoff. Like, guess what? You can still PR, you can still make the bar. So don't ever give up. Like fight for every single jump because it doesn't have to be perfect. And
Yeah.
chances are it won't be, and that's okay.
That's a metaphor for life, because there's so many people who are trying to be successful at something. And the people who are the most successful in the field that they're trying in, their journeys were not like perfect. They were not like one sequential step after another. Well, first I went to college and then I did this and I did everything right. And sometimes the people who
Right.
are trying to do everything right, they get stuck. Because like they're not being as open-minded. They could be, but maybe they're still learning that lesson. But sometimes the people who are the most successful, like there's a lot of imperfection along the way in that journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes
And I
sense.
think that's what makes it beautiful too. Like that's what makes it a journey. Like I couldn't tell you any person whose journey has been just one linear line.
I know. And that's how we want it to be, right? It's like,
Yeah.
don't want to go through all of that, or like you want to get there already. You want to get to the goal, especially if you're just an ambitious person, and you want to just make it to that goal. But I think like looking back, you see like there's so much growth and evolution and like even the hard things that you experienced.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And clap for the small wins along the way too,
Yeah.
because those are just as important.
Yeah. Well, just before we wrap up, like one last question, you've said so many things that I think are amazing takeaways for somebody watching this. But if you're talking to the audience or to your followers or someone who's like looking up to you, what is like one thing that you would want them to take away?
One thing I would want them to take away is probably the work ethic that I have. Don't be afraid to work hard and really enjoy that hard work while you're doing you. Like I am a love the journey type of girl. Like
Hmm.
I truly do enjoy the grueling workouts along the way that I know are gonna get me to the destination. So yeah, work hard and love what you do.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And there's so many things that you've said that are motivating and inspiring, and seeing like how far you can get, and not having a perfect journey or not having a perfect jump, and still like just being amazing and being an inspiration and being a coach and teacher. I think it's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. It's really been a pleasure. Something that really surprised me is that a lot of Anika's story, it ended up being like a conversation about nervous system regulation. What do you do with your body? How do you sense your body in space? It's so cool to me that she was talking about what she does with the nerves, what she does with the fear. And it's like, I don't know where she learned that along the way. It sounds like it's kind of like she said, a little bit learned, like, but a lot, it just kind of, she figured it out herself. Um, but when we talk about like regulating your nervous system, we're not talking about being calm all the time, not having reactions, not having fear or something like that passing really quickly. That is not what we're talking about at all. And I think that's what a lot of people think that we mean when we are talking about nervous system regulation. Like they think that being regulated is just being steady and unwavering and things not getting to you. But what we really mean is working with your body's natural responses to things that are adaptive and actually healthy and useful. And what's happened sometimes if you've experienced trauma or something like that is that the nervous system reactions have gone awry. They're not working the way that they're supposed to, or they were suppressed at a certain time. And that suppression has actually led to long-term problems. Or a nervous system was triggered many times over, and then without an ability to kind of come back to what we call homeostasis, which is kind of like the natural, like resting state. So if you went through like a chronic trauma, a difficult relationship, or something difficult in childhood, you may have been triggered off a lot. And what happens with fear or nerves, like just as Anicka was describing, is that there's kind of like a cycle to it, that it peaks and then it comes down by itself naturally. And that is really just a result of adrenaline and cortisol in our bodies. It's a natural process. But we're supposed to be able to just peak and have those feelings and those nerves kind of do what they're going to do, feel those experiences, and then it naturally comes down. But what happens for a lot of people is that at the peak, it gets suppressed or it gets linked to something very scary. So if you were having that during a traumatic incident, then you have all kinds of scary, difficult emotions that are now linked to those sensations. Like she said, the sensation of shaking is a very natural thing our bodies do to release that extra energy and adrenaline. Or the sensation of like butterflies in your stomach has become linked to to something that was very scary. And now any sensation like that also triggers off those other feelings and other fears. Um, or it just kept getting triggered off and then peaking and not having a chance to come down because there was always something going on, which is the case in childhood trauma, is that it's a chronic trauma. There's always something that's happening. So you're kind of always in this state of like being triggered and being heightened, being triggered and being heightened, never really get to come down and feel safe, which teaches the body and teaches the unconscious that you can have that experience and it's actually okay, and that you can come back to feeling safe, that there's a sort of like a repair. Um, and what she is doing is that she's allowing her body and not being scared of it. She's not in her head saying, I can't feel this way. I can't feel fear. Got to get rid of this. This needs to go away. What if I fail? This is the worst. So she's not linking any sort of negative emotions to those sensations. And of course, she's not in a traumatic situation where you kind of almost can't help but do that. And she's actually doing something that is a technique, something that we call like somatic tracking, which is allowing yourself to feel the sensations without reacting to them, which desensitizes you to them. And it makes space for your nervous system to come down from that peak of being triggered, of being activated. So when she said, I feel the butterflies, that's it. I'm not trying to stuff the butterflies down. I'm not trying to get rid of them. I just feel them. And sometimes it's almost like enjoyable because it's like a rush. And sometimes it's not enjoyable, because I'm shaking and I'm afraid. But I just allow it and I turn it into something else. And so actually what she's doing is she's allowing her body to do what it's naturally supposed to do, which is why those fears and the nerves aren't affecting her in a negative way and they aren't getting in the way. She allows it to come and go. It's a natural process. And then she's able to tap into her mindset and tap into that muscle memory because she's not stuck in that nervous system state. And so that's what we mean by nervous system regulation. I didn't expect the conversation to go that way, but it's actually amazing. And maybe I should have thought of it because sports, something so physical and so precise as pole vaulting, is a very nervous system activating activity. And so I just think it's really amazing to see in action what nervous system regulation is feeling the feelings, not attaching to those sensations anything negative, allowing it to kind of play out as it does, being okay even when it's spiked, being okay when it's calmed down. And that is really nervous system regulation. It's not just being chill all the time, which is what I think a lot of people have come to believe that it actually means. Um, Tune in. I'm going to write a Substack post about that as well, and just how we can apply that in our own lives using the tool of somatic tracking, which is observing our sensations without judgment, in order to break those negative attachments to them and kind of be one with our bodies instead of fighting against them. So now it's time for one of our questions. User submitted questions again, that when I answer these questions, they are not in place of therapy. They're not therapy advice. They're not medical advice. And they're not personal answers. They are just something to think about and some information from the mental health perspective. If you need therapy, or need some personalized help with that, you should seek that out. So I think this is a good question for today, actually, because it is about, um, what do you do when you panic over physical sensations? So every time I feel something in my body like that is different, I start to think that it's a symptom, and I start to get worried that something is seriously wrong with me. Why do I always panic and think that I am seriously ill every time I feel body sensation? So, a lot of times for people that's a spectrum, and for some people it can go as far as to being like a health anxiety disorder. And sometimes people just get that once in a while, and it's kind of part of their general anxieties. But being worried about being sick because of a sensation. So that's twofold. First of all, a lot of people who've experienced trauma, particularly childhood trauma, that there is a lot of scientific research showing that they are more prone to this kind of problem because they are more hypervigilant of their body sensations. So, somebody else might have a little lightheadedness, a little shortness of breath or something like that, and not even actually notice it. All right. So they're more prone to noticing those bodily sensations, and they're more prone to assigning a negative meaning to those bodily sensations. So again, someone who doesn't have this problem, they might notice that they are a little short of breath, that their heart started to feel racing, but they would either just think nothing of it, or they would think something like, oh, maybe I just had a little too much coffee. I should just get something to eat. Right. So they wouldn't assign this sort of negative meaning to it. So if you've had a history of trauma, more likely to do that. And there's also a big genetic component to this and a learned component. If your parents struggled with anxiety, there's a bigger chance of that being passed down. And if you saw them constantly worried, they were constantly worried about you as a kid, or constantly worried about their own health or someone else's, you might start to absorb that. You learn that, and you start to also do that when you are an adult. So panicking over every bodily sensation, what most people will try to do with this is one of two things. One is they will research. All right. So they get on Google or they get on WebMD, and they start to try to figure out if something is actually wrong with them and what that might be. That is one of the worst things that you could do for it. So when clients come in to see me and they have this problem, I first say, first line of defense, like, because there's so much that we can work through with this. First thing to do, stop looking it up. Now, that can be very hard to do. It can be very tempting. Kind of have to like ride out those feelings and ride out those urges. But it never helps to look it up. You will always find things that make you more afraid. You're not a doctor, but you're going to think that you're a doctor. You always find things that will make you start to think even worse stuff. And now medical professionals, they don't look at one symptom. They look at a lot of symptoms in context to make a diagnosis. And so you're not going to be able to do that, especially when you're coming from this dysregulated state. You don't have the information and you're already scared. So your mind is already starting programmed to look for all the negative things. And even if you find something that is reassuring, that makes you think, oh, okay, I don't have that. I don't have this terrible disease I thought I had. That reassurance is actually a reinforcer for the anxiety. The reassurance feels good temporarily, but it doesn't actually help long term. So, not looking for reassurance, not looking for information is the first number one thing. Not trying to go on and self diagnose. And the other thing that people do is they try to talk themselves out of it. They try to reason with themselves and say, well, that last time I thought I was sick, I wasn't. So maybe this time I'm not either. These things are really rare. And people who like you, love you, and care about you, they will try to do those things too, to try to reason with you. What's the probability of a headache actually being brain cancer? Very, very slight probability. But that doesn't help people with anxiety. Anxiety, it has a mind of its own, and it's always coming up with new things. It's always coming up with what ifs. Okay, but what if I am in the 0.2%? Okay, but what if it's actually not that, but it's actually this? And so you always go around in this cycle of you or someone else is trying to argue those thoughts and talk you out of it. And this is very counterintuitive because a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, people who are not applying this the right way, they will try to do that. They would try to reframe your thoughts into something that's a little more functional or a little more positive. Like, I don't actually have that, because it's really not likely. Or if I had it, I would also have other symptoms, and therefore I don't. Now change that thought. But again, that doesn't work. Even if it does work, 10 minutes later, and if you have this problem, you know that this is true. 10 minutes later, you're going to be thinking, okay, but wait, what if I didn't think about this? What if the doctor missed that? And it's just going to keep going. The best thing to do for thoughts like this is to just recognize what they are and try to distance yourself. We use that in mindfulness. We use that in something we call cognitive diffusion. You might have seen that in mindfulness based therapies like ACT. You see the thought from afar, right? So you say, I know I have this problem. I know I have these worries, and these are thoughts. And now I'm having more thoughts about this type of issue. The thoughts are very distressing. The thoughts are coming in fast. The thoughts feel overwhelming. Where do I feel that in my body? They feel kind of crushing. And continuing to notice that rather than thinking the thoughts through. So for most of my clients, I give them this kind of example when they're practicing this cognitive technique. So say your phone rings and you look at it and you see that it's somebody that really bothers you and that you don't like talking to. And then, someone that's just not a great person in your life. You have two choices. One is you can answer the phone and talk to them and engage with them. And the other is that you can look and say, okay, that person is calling, and not answer the phone. And it's the same with our thoughts. Now, again, it's not so easy, but it does get easier over time. And so not answering the phone on those thoughts, not engaging with them, but just noticing that they are there and labeling that for what it is. So I hope you find that helpful. And again, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to go to my Instagram and check out my Substack as well. My Substack is Deep Dive with Dr. Vassilia. And we're going to talk a little more about what Anicka talked about today, with just some of the nervous system techniques and what it truly means to have a regulated nervous system.